An elementary school teacher out of Wisconsin has just been arrested for allegedly making out with an 11-year-old student, and the apparent messages between the two shed even more light on this disturbing situation. We sit down with renowned predator catcher Chris Hansen. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey there, everybody. This is a Law&Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Well, Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is actually helping users file for compensation due to Google misleading the privacy of their incognito browser. So if you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions at incognitoclaims.com/sidebar. Madison Bergmann, a 24-year-old elementary school teacher out of Wisconsin, has been accused of making out with her 11-year-old student, 5th grade, Rivercrest Elementary School. Let's take a second to process that for just, think about it, because she has now been arrested and charged with one count of first-degree child sexual assault with a child under the age of 13. Oh, and here's the kicker. She was supposed to be married to her longtime boyfriend this July. Now, the way this was all uncovered was that the boy's parents allegedly overheard him talking to Bergmann on the phone. The boy apparently revealed that they talked every day. The parents found text messages between the two. So the father reportedly went to the school with printouts of these text exchanges, and the conversations apparently revealed that there were several encounters between this teacher and student during lunch periods or after school. But there's more, because police discovered more details through the messages and also handwritten notes between the two, where Bergmann allegedly admitted to how much she enjoyed being intimate with the boy, namely him touching her and then making out. It's pretty disgusting, to say the least. In one of the notes, Bergmann allegedly wrote, quote, "One of my cousins is in the 5th grade, and I can't imagine a man talking to her how we talk. I know we have a special relationship, and I do love you more than anyone in the world, but I have to be the adult here and stop." One alleged text exchange, the victim said, quote, "Ha ha ha, bro, I just want to make out with you." The teacher is accused of replying with, "I do too, like all the time." She also claims that she was obsessed with this boy in one of these messages. Oh boy, let's talk about this with renowned predator catcher Chris Hansen, host of Takedown on TruBlu and the podcast Predators I've Caught. Chris, great to see you. Again, I always say I wish it was under better. Yes, I wish it was under better circumstances. What are your thoughts on this?
First of all, we've seen so many of these cases, Jesse, and it makes me really wonder if school districts are doing enough in terms of background screening, psychological screening of these teachers. This has to be the 25th or 30th case we've seen across the country where a young female teacher in mid-20s or early 30s has preyed upon a young male student. Now, we've seen this with male predator teachers over the years, certainly, and I see this in my investigations with men going after young women and young boys too. But there's something going on in the world of teachers and students that I have never seen before in my 42 years of being a journalist. And so you have to wonder, is this reality feeding off of fantasy, which I think it is? You see more and more fantasy porn available on different social media platforms, fetishizing, teacher-student relationships. And is that part of this? I don't know, but it's very disturbing. And when you look at the texts here, it's unmistakable that, there are very serious allegations and likely crimes committed. And how do you fix this kid after all this has happened? That's my first and primary thought.
And he's so young. And a lot of the times we cover these stories, the female perpetrator or the female suspect is married or about to be married or has children. What does that tell you?
We had one in Tennessee where the accused teacher was married to a sheriff's deputy. So, imagine the collateral damage there. First of all, if the allegations are true, and I think that case is headed towards a plea agreement, it devastates a family. And for what? To have this fantasy? I mean, obviously, something goes on in the mind of someone like this where they're either trying to recreate a pleasant situation in their past, some sort of contact with a boy that they haven't had in a while, and there's a need to recreate this, or it's a power trip. The teacher in this case must have some kind of feeling of control that is exciting to her in terms of a sexual fantasy, to have power over this kid in the classroom, and then to have him in her car or in a cloakroom or wherever this is going on, to kiss and have him sexually arouse her. I mean, it's really disturbing. And so I think it's time for school districts to really take a close look at who they're hiring and what kind of screening they undergo during the hiring process.
One of the things that really stood out about this case was the communications, because it's being reported the boy's parents had given Bergmann, when they apparently invited her on a skiing vacation with the family, they exchanged numbers. And that's how this young boy and this teacher were starting to communicate. That was an interesting detail, that apparently they might have had so much trust in her to invite her on a vacation.
And I don't think it's uncommon for families to become close to teachers. I know when my kids were younger, it was not uncommon for me to know the teachers. I don't think anybody ever joined us on a ski trip or anything like that, but we certainly knew the teachers. We were friendly with them at school activities and fundraisers and things like that. And never did I suspect of any sort of untoward relationship or contact. It just didn't cross my mind, even in the early days of the predator investigations. And you can imagine how careful I am, and especially back when, my guys are adults now, but when they were kids, how careful I was in terms of screening and background checks for, anything from a guitar teacher to a tutor. I had my own background check, but not everybody has, access to the things I have access to. So I think big picture, we have to be better about hiring and screening. At micro level, God, this is just such a disturbing case for this woman to prey upon this boy. And again, so many people look at this as a schoolboy fantasy type thing, that, God, any young boy would love this and love the attention from a good looking adult woman. But it has damage that has an impact for many years to come. I mean, this kid has been exposed to things at the age of 11, 12, that they shouldn't be exposed to. And now the parents have to deal with all that. It's very alarming.
And they can't even process it, a young boy that age. Process what's even going on.
The kid can't even process it. The kid doesn't even know why he is excited about it. The kid doesn't even know why his body is reacting to this attention the way it's reacting to it. It's, we've seen in our predator investigation scenarios where guys have gone after girls as young as 12 years old. And again, just a week before last, we were out on a sting, and it doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, despite our investigations, despite the awareness. And it says to me that there is an unprecedented level of this activity going on online and on some of these social media platforms. And there's been an explosion, as you and I know, of social media platforms. It's not just AOL and Yahoo like when we started. So it comes down to parents also having to have these conversations. And unfortunately, it appears that parents need to talk to their boys about the appropriate and inappropriate potential contact between them and female teachers and male teachers too. I mean, this cuts across all across the board. But you wouldn't normally think you'd have to tell your son, okay, be careful of the nice Miss so-and-so. She may say something inappropriate to you. But I guess you have to have this blanket talk now and continue to enhance the discussion as the child gets older.
They shouldn't have to have that conversation, because you mentioned something about the school. Now, I want to read you something from the school. I want your reaction to this. So first, the principal of this school says, we are shocked and disturbed by this news. Our greatest concern is for the Rivercrest school community and the children impacted. Then a spokesperson for the school district said in part, quote, learning about a school staff member and alleged inappropriate conduct that breaches trust is deeply troubling for all of us. We understand the gravity of this situation and are committed to providing the necessary support for any child who may be impacted. We kindly request the school community to respect the privacy of Hudson students and their families and refrain from spreading rumors or speculation. They also provided counseling services for any of the students and the teachers who might be affected by these allegations. Talk to me about what you make of that.
Well, I think it's an appropriate response. I think the better action would have been to screen the teacher before this happened. But again, you have to be reasonable about the responsibilities of a school district. I mean, they're going to be shocked by this just as, the parent and the rest of the parents are in the
Yep.
school district. So this is not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have to ask a 24-year-old teacher, do you think you're going to have a propensity to have a intimate contact with a fifth grader in your class? I mean, that it defies common sense that
Yep.
anybody would do that. But apparently we're at that period where we've seen so many of these cases where we need to ask that question and we need to screen for that. Because I've never, ever seen a level of this activity as we're seeing and as we've seen over the last year, especially 2 years.
Yep.
It's shocking, but it sounds like the school district is doing everything it possibly can to deal with this situation. And rumors will run wild because that's the nature of the environment. Parents are going to kibitz about this, and kids are going to talk about it. And there's going to be a lot of activity on social media and unfortunately a lot of joking about a very serious topic here.
And let me wrap this up with what we can expect here. So she has been charged with one count of first-degree child sexual assault with a child under the age of 13. And my understanding of Wisconsin law, that defines it even as just sexual contact. So you didn't need to have intercourse in order to be found guilty of this Class B felony. Class B felony, again, my understanding is up to 60 years in prison. And with respect to her current legal state, she was let out on a $25,000 bond. She's not allowed to be on school property or have contact with the victim, of course, or anyone under the age of 18. She's also subject to GPS monitoring. She has been suspended, placed on administrative leave. No surprise there. Her next court appearance is at the end of the month on May 30th. Do you think that this is a situation where we may see a plea deal? Because I don't know how you defend against a case like this unless you say that.
Yeah, I think this is a tailor-made. Yeah, this is a tailor-made case, Jesse, for a plea or agreement in which she accepts responsibility, has to go through treatment, counseling, perhaps a small amount of jail time. You can debate the jail time and is that proper punishment without any prior history of this. It seems, depending on the jurisdiction, it seems like it's headed for a plea with lengthy probation, registration as a sex offender, and probably no jail time. Now, you want to know who I feel sorry for is the fiancee who had all likelihood no idea this was going on. And how do you swallow this? I mean, God, I feel horrible for that fella and what he's dealing with right now.
It's one thing to, your significant other's having an affair, but this is something entirely different.
This is it's unforgivable. If the allegations are true, and it appears certainly that there's strong evidence they are, this is one of those unforgivable things. And it's created enormous collateral damage across an entire community. A fiance, a child, and an entire school district is reeling from this because one woman's fantasy.
And I would say, there was maybe a way to defend it if it was just this young boy coming out and saying this happened. But when you have the messages and you have the notes, the messages, the notes are just,
It's not a Romeo and Juliet situation. This isn't a college undergraduate teaching assistant involved with a 17 or 18-year-old freshman. This is a child, plain and simple, being exploited and preyed upon by an adult. That's end of story.
Chris Hansen, you can check him out on Takedown on TruBlu and the podcast Predators I've Caught. Great seeing you, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on.
Great to see you, Jesse. See you soon. Thank you.
Take care. All right, everybody, that's all we have for you here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.